carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus, which are the basic elements for life on this planet. These numbers represent formulas for sugars and bases in nucleotides of DNA, and this long series of dots and spaces represents the number of nucleotides in DNA, which is 4,294,966,110. Finally, these curved lines represent the double helix of DNA. So the simple dots and spaces of this portion of the message describe the entire composition of man. This dot pattern is found below the previous portion. A human being is depicted here. These dots represent the number 14, which indicate the height of mankind. And this very large number of dots and spaces represents the value of 4,292,583,750, which happens to have been the population of Earth in 1974. These dots represent the planets of our solar system around the Sun, which is depicted by this large square. Then you have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Notice how the symbol for Earth is higher than the rest to indicate where mankind lives. At the very bottom of the message, you have what looks like a rainbow over the letter M, but actually it is a depiction of the Arecibo telescope which sent the message. In the middle of the M is where the radio energy is bounced off of the dish antenna and then out into space. The dots and spaces at the bottom represent the number 2,430, which indicates the size of the telescope. When you flip the dot pattern over, you can see a closer relationship to the telescope, which was similar to this one at Bolton in England. This is the complete Arecibo message again, and this is a graphic of the crop formation that was discovered 27 years later on August 19, 2001, next to the formation of the face and the Bolton telescope. The red dots indicate what was different in the crop formation from the original message. The dots and spaces here are the exact same binary representation of our decimal numbering system as it appeared in the Arecibo message. However, this pattern is different, while these are the same. These curved lines are also the same, but these straight lines are different, and everything else is different. However, it all directly relates to what was sent in the Arecibo message of 1974. Let's take a closer look at how these two messages are different. Although the dots for our numbering system were the same, these patterns just below it and the crop formation varied slightly from the original pattern. They represent the atomic numbers for the building blocks of life as we know it. But this new pattern has an extra column of dots that relate to the atomic number of 14, which is the element silicon. Does this mean that whoever created the crop formation has silicon in the makeup of their DNA? Below the dots that indicate the formula and number of nucleotides in DNA, which are identical in both patterns, we have these strikingly different patterns. Instead of a depiction of a human being as presented in the Arecibo message, the crop pattern has a different depiction of a humanoid form. This new depiction shows a body with 2 arms and legs like humans, but the head is much larger. And this pattern here, which represents the height of the body, has a value of 8 instead of 14 that the Arecibo message indicated was the height of man. This would indicate that this other body is a little taller than half our height. And this dot pattern of the crop formation, which represents population, is also different. It indicates a population that is almost 6.5 billion larger than our own. Now let's examine these dot patterns here. The dots in the Arecibo message represented the 9 planets around the Sun. These long lines indicated the relative size of the planets. Notice how this dot, which represents the Earth, is above all of the others in order to indicate where humanity lives. Also notice how Earth's dot is located directly below that of the depiction of man. In the crop formation, there are 3 dots that are raised above the rest. They refer to the planets of Earth, Mars, and Jupiter. However, it is the dot for Mars that is located directly below the humanoid body. Does this mean that the creators of the crop formation come from Mars? If so, why is the dot representing Earth also raised next to that of Mars? In addition to the dots for Earth and Mars, notice how there are 4 dots that represent Jupiter, which also appear to be raised to the same level. But instead of just representing Jupiter as a straight line, as in the case with Saturn, which is roughly about the same size, there are 4 dots forming a circle. Well, Jupiter is too big with too much gravity to support life. However, there are 4 moons around Jupiter that are about the same size as our moon. They are known as Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Could these 4 dots mean that there is life on those moons as well? At the very bottom of both formations, you have these distinctly different dot patterns. This is a depiction of the Arecibo telescope that sent this message with an indicated size of 2,430. And this is a depiction of something else with a size of 6,748. Look closely. Doesn't this formation look like something that you have seen before? Well, it just so happens that 1 year prior to the discovery of this formation, and in the very same wheat field, this crop formation appeared, and they both look surprisingly similar. As previously described, this pattern represents a new form of radiated power using an H2O magnetron to generate temporary particles of magnetic energy. Could this represent a new form of communication that could be used to communicate with whoever created the crop circle formations? Let's review what can be derived from the Chilbolton crop formations. If the information provided is accurate, we now know that we are not alone in the universe. There is intelligent life on Mars and on the moons of Jupiter. We know the general form and size of what they look like, the composition of their DNA, and their population. We also know how they communicate, and more importantly, that they want to communicate with us. What this formation does not tell us, however, is why they want to communicate with us or what their intentions may be. However, another crop formation was discovered 1 year later that could shed some light on these very important questions. Now, initially, I thought that this next formation that I'm about to show you was a hoax, because I believed that it was created by someone who simply wanted to make a cartoon image of an extraterrestrial being. Now I understand that this pictogram is a deliberate attempt to show an extraterrestrial being as a living entity with a consciousness. On August 15th of 2002, this elaborate crop formation was discovered at Crabwood Farmhouse in Winchester County, England. It is a frame design that measures 232 feet